think you made it in the end?
Stubbornness, be above and beyond the call of duty. This is not a political, racial issue. This is a political, structural issue.
The record has it that I've never cried, but my eyes have gotten moist hearing you talk.
I'm speaking to the president. He's going to call me. Hello, it's Ursula Burns.
Hi, this is Amos Jackson with President Obama's office.
I gotta go, I have to go.
We interrupt this broadcast for President Obama. Hey family, it's Carlos Watson. We have a spectacular show for you today. Maybe one of the most impressive people I've ever met, which is saying a lot, given all of the very good people we've had on this show. Ursula Burns stops by. Now, she became the first Black woman to helm a Fortune 500 company when she took over Xerox a number of years ago. She sits on the board of Uber and a number of other companies. What a wonderful story she has. It's got a wonderful memoir. You're gonna love it. It's called Where You Are Is Not Who You Are. Get ready to be surprised and delighted by Ursula Burns. Ursula?
Carlos, how are you doing?
Good, how are you?
You look beautiful, my goodness, wonderful.
Oh, thank you. What's it like in New York?
You know, I live in an apartment where I can see far, right? I'm up high and can see far. It's just such a beautiful view. So I'm having a great day because of that.
And when you go down to the UN, where are you stopping to eat?
I'm into like Israeli street food. There's a great falafel place and lamb place and this kind of like pocket things with oh my goodness. I'm a big eater, but I'm a big cooker as well. I love to cook myself. So, and I really got to do that a lot in the pandemic. So.
Wait, now what's your specialty? Because I've been known to crash people's homes uninvited at about dinner time.
Yeah, there are three things that I make perfected. One is spinach lasagna. I love vegetable stir fry, but it's not traditional. And I really, really, really love making soups.
All right, what are we drinking with this?
I love very good wines. Not always expensive, but definitely very good.
Now, my name Carlos is as a result of Panama. My grandfather was from Jamaica, and you know that many people from around the world, but particularly around the Caribbean, went to Panama to help build the canal.
It's amazing.
Similar story?
Huh? Absolutely. My mother's parents and my father's parents one was from Nicaragua, and they came to Panama to work on the canal. And as you know, the struggle with the canal is that it was not a very safe or equally destructive on people's lives endeavor. And mostly Black and brown people died building this thing. And after that, my father and my mother, but my father stayed in that area. His parents were built there. A lot of the time they had gone home, but stayed in that area. And what happened around that time as well is that they offered to Panamanians, but also to other Central Americans. They offered to these people who had very little an opportunity that was amazing, which is you can go serve in the Army or the Air Force, in the military, in the armed forces, fight in the war, which was the Korean War. And if you live, you can get access to a green card in the United States. So every Black person went. Lots of us died. We were not offered citizenship, obviously. We were offered a green card in this country because the United States needed fighters, right? And so that's part of the abuse. You know, you basically bribe someone to risk their life so that they can get a better life, right? This is what happens a lot.
Yeah, it's so interesting that you talk about that because that's how my dad's brothers, my Uncle Dunbar, may he rest in peace, and my Uncle Lloyd, and my dad all ended up serving in the Army. Same kind of story there, coming from Jamaica, coming from a small town. There's just so many layers to these stories, always.
This is what we're peeling back of the many layers of history, right? You don't hear about Joe Kennedy and the building of the canal and the number of people of color who died in doing this with very little regard for their lives, absolutely no enumeration or protection for their families. But you do hear about the building of this great engineering feat by these white guys who did this. The reason why they could do this engineering feat is because they had experimental people, who people look like us, who went down deep and died from the bends coming up. And so they perfected that. The science behind it was amazing, but it wasn't science done in the light of the value of a life, right? There's so much that you learn later that kind of taints the story from a admiration perspective, but also makes people like me and you and proud that this wasn't all these white guys going off and doing, no, we were actually core, essential, and fundamentally required to the success.
What happens, Ursula, when you do have that conversation with someone who is white and powerful? Do you find that they know that history?
They generally do not know the history. Nowadays, it's more likely that they're starting to realize the history.
Say my son's name, Marcus Brown!
And it got louder and louder and louder with George Floyd, with Me Too, George Floyd pandemic. It got louder, so people are starting to understand that, we have statues for this guy, Stonewall Jackson, and you look at what he did and you go, oh my God, we're actually admiring a guy who massacred people. But blatantly did it, not even a problem, not a problem. And maybe you need to have a statue for him, but maybe it's important that you explain the context for the statue. It is also not surprising that we have a little bit of momentum behind this retelling, a correct telling of history. It's like the Tulsa story. I knew about the Tulsa story. My kids knew about the Tulsa story. Most Black people had no idea about the Tulsa story, none. And well, I get that. White people actually didn't have any idea at all.
As many as 300 people were killed and 8,000 were left homeless as the once thriving, self-sufficient Black community of Greenwood, also known as Black Wall Street, was reduced to ashes.
To that level of achievement, that level of equality that they had gotten to, be literally having that happen, and just about everybody was Black. The customers were Black, the business owners were Black, the banks were Black. Only reason why this thing was destroyed and 300 and something people killed was that there were some white people who didn't think they were worthy of that. It's the George Floyd thing. One of the boards I'm on, one of the guys said, European guy, he said, well, I heard he was a criminal. And I said, interesting, that's your thought process around this event, the way that people around the world see us is a group of people that must be controlled. Police is not here to protect and serve. That's not what they're here for us. For us, it's social control. We need to be kept in our place.
Veterans for! Black Lives Matter! Veterans for! Black Lives Matter!
Everything about it, Carlos, is wrong, and we actually are still having conversations about it that we start the conversations with, there must be a reason. These people act this way, and that's the reason why these other people respond this way. And it's just so crushingly disturbing sometimes. Vernon Jordan used to say to me, stop complaining, just get on with it. Because I call this, he used to say to me all the time, stop your bitching, just move on. Stop your complaining, just move on. But what he meant is that, it's bad. It's bad out there.
Nobody has done more for the Black community than Donald Trump, with the exception of Abraham Lincoln, possible exception.
He told us who he was. Why are we surprised that he's acting that way? This is the president. So the reason why I'm surprised is that it was not him. It was 70-something million Americans who voted for him. Because if you voted for this man, particularly the second time, what you said is, I am willing to take this unbelievably bad behavior in certain areas. I'm willing to accept that. Easy for them to accept it, it's not happening to them, so that I can get a couple of more pennies or dollars in my pocket. That was a stunning statement to me.
You are so lucky I'm president, that's all I can tell you.
What do you think would have happened? 44,000 votes different, and Trump would have been elected to a second term.
I think that we would be in a spiraling decimation of structures in the United States.
Stop protecting tyrants! Stand down!
Second, we would have social unrest in the streets. I guarantee you of that. Right now we have a little bit more hopefulness. We don't have a lot of time to live on this. We have to keep enacting things. That's why I love what Biden is doing.
This is Democracy's Day, a day of history and hope, of renewal and resolve.
Without hope, the reality becomes unbearable. Without hope, the reality becomes an incendiary device for destruction. We saw it a little bit in policing, how policing was spiraling out of control. I mean, we all over the place. It still is not great, don't get me wrong. I think we need police, so I'm not about let's get rid of all the police, but I think we have to have a reset on the police. I mean, there's a problem here. And people who look like us, particularly people who look like you are a target. I say this to my son all the time. I mean, during the Black Lives Matter thing, when after Charles Floyd, he was in California and he was going out to march. I was marching in England, and I said to him, I asked him if you ever be careful. You're gonna go out there and you're gonna join a group of people who are whole bunches of them, tens of thousands who are marching. These people, when they say, if you get into any confrontation with these people that look like police people, you become the most docile person in the world. Listen to me. I don't want any of this pride or anything. I want you alive.
And these people have been peaceful.
Ursula, I feel what you're saying, obviously, in the deepest and most profound way, and it's interesting. You know, the record has it that I've never cried, but my eyes have gotten moist once or twice in my life. And hearing you talk, you know, I can hear my mom, may she rest in peace, just scared to death when I used to go out.
I say this to some of my white colleagues. It's not like we're waking up every day saying, oh my God, it's really a burden to be Black. No, we don't even think about it that way. I mean, actually, we kind of like where we are. We just don't like where you guys are. But we wake up and say, I wish you guys would learn how to act. I wish you would learn more.
Justice!
We have the start of a movement here. This is not a moment. And then we had this thing called the pandemic.
At the conference today, they gave the virus a name, COVID-19, coronavirus disease.
My mother, amazing woman, made $4,400 a year, most that she ever made. We lived on that plus welfare. That's what I realized, that if my mother were alive now, she would have been crushed to death. Absolutely. We had no space. Carlos, we had none. I write this in the book, just how, because we were living a good life, poor, but the kids, she did it fine. And what I realized is if she were alive, her job would have stopped, her $4,400 a year, whatever that would have translated to now, let's say $10,000 a year, would have stopped. We would have almost surely, without protection from the government, been kicked out of our apartment.
What was your mom's name?
Raquel Burns. She was just an amazing person. I talk a lot about her in the book, but it's almost impossible for me to make a turn anywhere without having, you know, it's like your mother in your ear, right? You know, you know how this is, right?
Yeah, I did.
Yeah, particularly Black mothers, they are in your ear. My mother was, just about every move I make, she's in there.
How did you end up making it from Olga's daughter, $4,400? Why do you think you made it in the end?
Former Xerox chief executive Ursula Burns made history in 2009 as the first African-American woman CEO of a Fortune 500 company.
I put in all the energy, I get it, but I know a lot of people put in all the energy. I had strategic help, lucky help. I had help. Programs that paid for me to go to college and grad school. A great employer in the beginning of my career. Meeting some unbelievable people who helped me along the way. We absolutely can't get up in a day and feel good if we have not given back to someone out there, even if it means a guy in the street, to lighten their load. So help, big second thing. The third is stubbornness, be above and beyond the call of duty. I just, after a while, just got pissed off is not a good word. I decided to say, it is no longer acceptable for you to judge me based on these things that have nothing to do with your knowledge of me, right? You know, you have to come to work every day. I did that. You have to get good grades in college. I did that. You have to go over here and learn this. So after a while, it became clear to me that clear to me in a very comfortable way that all this stuff that they're talking about, us not having, not doing, is all bullshit. It's all BS. It is part of the mark of supremacy, right? Because what supremacy does is it defines a standard that some of it's written, a lot of it isn't. A lot of it is insurmountable by the person who is not in the supreme group. One of the things, for example, is that you should be white. The other one, for sure, if you're a woman, is that you should be a male. There is a supremacy and that structure, right? We don't have adequate child care, but don't worry. The women will take care of that, right? Really? Suppose all women all went on strike, so we're done. We built a structure that there is certain work that only immigrants will do, only people who, so we build these structures that fit the supreme being, and we contort ourselves to fit into that, even though we can't, some of us can't, we'll never get there. But when we get there, this structure says, you guys are exceptional, you're spectacular. And I keep looking at it. It took me a while to get comfortable with this. I'm like, I did exactly what you did. I mean, wait a minute. Why is it that if I did exactly what you did, in order for me to be in this room, I have to be exceptional? I got it after a while. Need to be here. I'm speaking to President, he's gonna call me. Oh no, he called me already. Hold on, I gotta go.
Okay.
I hate to say this. Hello, it's Ursula Burns.
Hi, this is Amos Jackson with President Obama's office. How are you?
How are you?
Good, I'll have the president for you in 1 second.
Okay, great, thank you, bye-bye. Thank you, hello. I gotta go, I have to go.
Okay, love you, see you soon. We are winning.
That was exceptional.
I was.
That was exceptional.
Yep. We interrupt this broadcast for President Obama. Hey, that was hot, wasn't that? How many shows get interrupted by Obama? That's all kinds of fire. That's what we're talking about on the Carlos Watson Show. Hey, I've been a big fan of Ursula Burns for a long time. If you're like me, that conversation just now reminded you what a special human being, what a thoughtful person, what a person we need in leadership, in public leadership. How lucky would we be if that was the case? Maybe one president handing off to a future president. You never know. All right, that's our show for today. Thank you very much for watching. If you are enjoying it, be sure to like and subscribe and try out the podcast. Be safe, be well. I'll see you on the other side.